Imagine working for years, counting every dollar, skipping vacations, and saying no to things everyone my age enjoyed, only to find out my own mother had stolen my $20,000 worth of brand new furniture and handed it to my sister like it was some birthday present. That moment still burns in my chest. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Emma Collins. I'm 28, and for the last several years, I've been doing everything I can to build a stable future for myself. I worked long hours at my job, sometimes 10 to 12 hours a day, because I had a dream. I wanted to buy my first home and fill it with things that were truly mine. Not hand-me-downs, not thrift pieces, not things I borrowed from family. I wanted to walk into a place and know every single thing in it was paid for with my own effort. So when I finally saved enough, I let myself dream a little. I picked out furniture I had bookmarked for years, things I never could afford before. A soft cream sectional, a solid wood dining table, a bedroom set that made me feel like I wasn't just surviving anymore, but actually building something. I remember standing in the showroom running my hand across the surface of the table, thinking, this is it. I made it. The delivery day felt like a celebration for me. I took pictures, rearranged everything 3 times, and sat on my new couch until midnight just because I could. It wasn't about the money, it was about the dignity. It was about finally seeing the result of every late night, every overtime shift, every weekend I gave up. I grew up in a family where that kind of independence wasn't always appreciated. My mom, Linda, always believed in taking from one child to help the other. She called it keeping the family balanced. But all it ever did was make me feel like I had to earn everything twice as hard. My younger sister, Haley, never had that pressure. She always got help, always got excuses made for her, always got things given to her because she was the baby. Still, even knowing that, I didn't expect what happened next. I was proud of my accomplishment. I wanted my mom to see that I was doing well, so I sent her pictures. She didn't say much, but I didn't think too deeply about it. I just assumed she was surprised or maybe even a little happy for me. For the first time in a long time, I felt settled. I felt like everything was moving in the right direction. I felt like my life was finally mine. I didn't know then that the people I trusted most would be the ones to take that feeling away. I didn't know that while I was working, while I was trying to build something peaceful, someone else was already planning to destroy it. I've always believed that if you want something in life, you have to earn it yourself. That belief shaped the way I worked. I was an assistant manager at a retail chain, and the hours were never easy. Some days I opened the store before the sun came up, and other days I stayed late, closing after everyone else had gone home. There were weeks when I barely saw my friends because I was too tired to do anything after work. I'd come home, eat something simple, and fall asleep just to wake up and do it all over again. But I didn't complain. Every extra shift meant saving a little more. Every holiday I worked gave me a little bonus. I kept reminding myself why I was doing it. I wanted to build a future without depending on anyone else. So while people my age went out for drinks, weekend trips, or shopping sprees, I kept my money tucked away. I knew exactly how much I needed, and I watched every dollar until I finally hit that number. When the time came to actually buy the furniture, I felt like I could finally breathe. I had spent months comparing prices, reading reviews, and choosing pieces that matched the picture I had always kept in my mind of my dream home. The day I walked into the store with my savings ready, my whole body felt light. I wasn't just buying things. I was buying proof that all my sacrifices were worth it. I went through every aisle carefully, touching the fabrics, checking the quality, imagining how everything would look in my space. The salesperson probably thought I was strange because I kept smiling to myself. But I didn't care. I picked out a beautiful living room set, a stunning dining table, and a bedroom set that made me feel like I was finally stepping into the adulthood I had worked so hard to reach. My sister Haley, on the other hand, had a completely different life. She was 24 and had always been the one my mom spoiled. If she wanted something, someone got it for her. If she messed up, someone excused it. She floated through life without ever worrying about saving or budgeting. She quit jobs whenever they felt too stressful. She changed apartments like it was nothing. And every time she needed help, she always had someone rushing to give it. We grew up in the same house, but it often felt like we lived in 2 different worlds. She was the baby, as my mom always called her, and I was the one expected to understand whenever something unfair happened. I didn't mind helping her now and then, but it was clear she never really understood how hard I worked or how much I saved to get where I was. So when I bought my furniture, I didn't even think about her reacting to it. I didn't expect jealousy or interest. I assumed she wouldn't care, because she had never cared about the work behind anything. I just felt grateful I could finally enjoy something I earned. I had no idea that this difference between us, the one I thought didn't matter, would be the exact reason everything fell apart. The day everything changed started like any other long shift. I remember being tired but excited to go home, thinking about relaxing on my new couch. I even stopped to buy takeout because I wanted to enjoy a calm evening in the space I worked so hard to create. But the second I opened my front door, something felt wrong. There was too much empty space. The living room looked hollow. I stepped inside slowly, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The couch was gone. The coffee table was gone. Even the rug I had picked out after weeks of searching was gone. I felt my chest tighten, and for a few seconds, I actually wondered if I was losing my mind. I checked the dining area next, nothing. Chairs, table, even the wall decor I had bought on sale, all gone. My heart started pounding. I rushed to my bedroom, praying that at least that set was still there. But when I opened the door, all I saw was an empty floor and hooks on the wall where my mirror used to hang. Almost everything I worked for, almost everything I saved for years to buy, had vanished. I stood there frozen, staring at the empty space where my bed had been just the night before. It felt unreal, like someone had ripped pages out of the life I was trying to build. My hands were shaking when I finally reached for my phone and called my mom. She picked up on the second ring, sounding almost casual. "Mom, my furniture is gone," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There was a short pause before she answered. "Oh, that. I thought you wouldn't mind if Haley used it temporarily." For a moment, I couldn't speak. I felt heat rising in my face, a mix of disbelief and anger. "You thought I wouldn't mind?" I repeated slowly, because I truly couldn't believe she was saying it so calmly. She sighed like I was overreacting. "Emma, you have always been the reasonable one. Haley needed it, and you're fine. You're working. You can always buy more later." Her words hit harder than the empty apartment. It wasn't just that she took it. She didn't even consider asking. She didn't think about what it meant to me. She didn't think about the years I spent saving. She just assumed I would accept it, like I always did. But this time was different. I walked around my apartment again, seeing the empty spots where my hard work used to be. It wasn't temporary. Nothing about how the furniture was removed looked temporary. They took everything carefully, piece by piece, like they planned it. And deep down, I knew the truth. Haley wasn't borrowing anything. My mom hadn't asked because she knew I would say no. They had made a decision together, without me, and expected me to fall in line the way I always had. Standing in that empty apartment, I felt something break inside me. Something I knew wouldn't be fixed by pretending everything was okay. I drove straight to my mom's house because I knew if I stayed in that empty apartment any longer, I would break down. The whole drive felt unreal. I kept replaying her words in my head, trying to make sense of how she thought any of this was normal. By the time I stepped onto her porch, my hands were cold and my heart felt heavy. She opened the door with the same calm expression she always used when she believed she had done the right thing. That made it even worse. I walked inside and didn't bother to sit. I looked straight at her and asked, "Why would you take my things without asking me?" She didn't look guilty. She didn't look upset. She just sighed like she was tired of the conversation already. "Emma, you're overreacting. You worked hard, but family is more important. Haley deserved it. She needed a fresh start." Hearing her say those words so easily felt like someone pushing a knife deeper. I had always known Haley was her favorite, but I never thought my mom would cross a line this big. "Deserved it?" I repeated. My voice came out quieter than I expected. "Mom, I paid for everything. I worked for years to afford that furniture." She waved her hand like it didn't matter. "Yes, and that's exactly why you'll be fine. You're strong, Emma. You always land on your feet. Haley doesn't have your stability. She needed help, and a good sister would understand that." That sentence sank into me like a stone. A good sister. In her eyes, standing up for myself made me selfish, but taking from me without permission was somehow noble. I felt betrayed in a way I couldn't explain. It wasn't just the furniture, it was the message behind it. My hard work didn't matter. My boundaries didn't matter. My feelings didn't matter. Only Haley's comfort mattered. I wanted to yell, to tell her how wrong she was, how unfair this had always been. But I felt something holding me back. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was years of being told to be the bigger person. Maybe it was the part of me that still wanted peace, even when I wasn't getting any in return. I stood there trying to find the right words, but everything inside me was tight and tangled. My mom kept talking like she was guiding me through something simple. "You're making this too emotional," she said. "It's just furniture. You'll get more." Haley needed it right now. She made me feel like I was wrong for being hurt. Like I was dramatic for caring about something I earned. Like my hard work was just something she could rearrange whenever she wanted. I left her house feeling smaller than when I arrived. My anger and heartbreak were fighting inside me, but so was a deeper confusion. Whether speaking up would change anything or only make things worse. For the first time, I questioned if keeping the peace was worth losing pieces of myself over and over again. After leaving my mom's house, I realized arguing wasn't going to change anything. She had already made up her mind, and Haley had taken the furniture without a second thought. So I did the only thing I could do in that moment. I stayed quiet. I didn't yell, I didn't beg, and I didn't show them how deeply I was hurt. Instead, I stepped back and watched. Silence gave me space to think, and it also gave me a chance to see things clearly. I knew if I reacted out of anger, they would use it against me. They would twist my words, call me ungrateful, and make me feel guilty for being upset. So I kept my expression neutral and my responses short. I acted calm, even though inside everything felt tight and heavy. Over the next few days, I observed them without letting them know what was going on in my mind. Haley didn't hide anything. She was proud of the setup she now had. When I stopped by to check on something my mom needed help with, Haley came into the room with a smile so wide it almost looked rehearsed. She talked about her new couch like she bought it herself. She mentioned how comfortable the bed was and how the dining table fit perfectly in her apartment. Every word felt like a small sting. She wasn't just using the furniture. She was enjoying it as if it belonged to her. She didn't acknowledge the effort it took me to earn it. She didn't see the loss I was dealing with. All she saw was something she wanted and now had. My mom wasn't any different. She acted like everything was fine, like nothing wrong had happened. She praised Haley for finally getting on her feet. And whenever I walked into the room, they both acted like I should be proud too. There was no apology, no guilt, just comfort on their side and a growing tension on mine. I didn't argue with them. I didn't ask for anything back. I simply listened and watched. And with every moment, something inside me shifted. I started seeing patterns that I had ignored for years. How quickly my mom defended Haley, how easily she dismissed my efforts, how often I was expected to stay quiet for the sake of peace. The more I observed, the clearer my thoughts became. I realized that reacting emotionally would only make them feel justified. They would say I was being dramatic or selfish or uncaring. But if I stayed calm, I could think. I could plan. I could figure out how to take back the control they thought I didn't have. For the first time, I stopped trying to make them understand me. I stopped trying to win their approval. Instead, I focused on myself, on what I could do quietly, carefully, and smartly. I knew I didn't need a fight to make things right. I didn't need yelling or chaos. I just needed a plan that would show them that taking advantage of me wouldn't be so easy anymore. The emotional tension stayed with me every day, but it no longer made me feel powerless. It made me determined. I wasn't going to let this slide. I wasn't going to let my hard work disappear into someone else's hands. I just had to choose the right moment. And when I did, they wouldn't see it coming. I reached a point where keeping everything inside wasn't helping anymore. I needed someone who would listen without judging me or telling me to just let it go. So I opened up to a couple of close friends first. We met after work, and I told them what happened from the moment I walked into my empty apartment. They were shocked, the kind of shocked where they kept repeating, "Your mom did that? And she really gave it all to your sister?" Hearing their reactions made me feel less crazy. It reminded me that what happened wasn't normal or something I was supposed to quietly accept. They told me plainly that I deserved better, that my feelings were valid, and that my family had crossed a line. Just having someone say that out loud helped me breathe a little deeper. But I also knew I needed real guidance, not just emotional support. That's when I talked to Ryan, a coworker I trusted. Ryan wasn't just a good listener. He understood things about legal rights, ownership, and financial boundaries. I didn't give him every emotional detail. I just explained the facts. I bought the furniture, someone removed it without my consent, and now it was being used by someone else. Ryan listened carefully, then leaned forward like he already knew what needed to be done. He explained that since everything was purchased under my name, and since I had receipts and delivery records, I had every right to reclaim it. He said taking property without permission, even within a family, was still wrong. Hearing someone speak about it so logically made the situation feel clearer. We talked about my options. I could request my furniture back formally. I could document everything. I could even involve authorities if it came to that. But he never pressured me. He just explained what paths were available. What stayed with me was when he said, "You don't have to be aggressive to stand up for yourself." That sentence settled into me like a calm truth. I didn't need a fight. I didn't need yelling. I didn't need to match their behavior. I just needed to be smart and steady. My friends also helped me think through things emotionally. They reminded me that reclaiming what was mine wasn't revenge. It was self-respect. They encouraged me to take my time and move in a way that felt right, not rushed. Little by little, the heaviness I'd been carrying started to lift. I still felt hurt, but I didn't feel as alone or as helpless. Talking things out with people who cared about me made me realize something important. I wasn't powerless. My mom and sister had taken advantage of my silence for years, assuming I would always stay calm and let things slide. But now I had clarity, support, and knowledge on my side. For the first time since the furniture disappeared, confidence slowly began to replace the shock. I wasn't ready to confront them yet, but I was ready to think clearly. I was ready to take back control of my own life, one step at a time. Once I understood my options and felt more grounded, I stopped letting my emotions lead and started thinking clearly. I didn't rush into confrontation. Instead, I began working quietly, step by step, in a way my mom and Haley wouldn't notice at first. I knew that if I reacted loudly, they would feel justified. But silence made them nervous, and I used that to my advantage. The first thing I did was start documenting everything. When I visited my mom or Haley for any reason, I paid attention. If I saw my dining table in Haley's apartment, I took a discreet picture. If my mom mentioned something about how nice Haley's place looked now, I made a note of it. I kept receipts, emails, delivery confirmations, and photos in one folder. The more information I collected, the more confident I felt. Then I changed my approach with them. Instead of showing anger or frustration, I smiled and acted unaffected. I didn't bring up the furniture. I didn't argue. I didn't even ask questions. I just made comments that were calm but sharp enough to make them wonder what I was thinking. One day, while standing in my mom's kitchen, I casually said, "It's interesting how quickly things come back around when people think they can take advantage." I didn't look at her directly. I just said it like it was a general thought. She hesitated before responding, and I caught a flicker of worry in her eyes. With Haley, I used a different method. Whenever she bragged about how perfect her apartment looked now, I nodded and simply replied, "It must feel strange enjoying things that don't belong to you." I said it calmly, not rude or loud, just honest. She froze every time, not sure whether I was joking or planning something. The more quiet I became, the more uneasy they grew. Haley especially started acting jumpy. She avoided mentioning the furniture altogether and even changed the subject quickly when I walked into a room. She wasn't sure what I knew or what I planned to do, and that uncertainty made her restless. My mom pretended everything was normal, but she watched me more closely than before. She asked questions like, "Are you doing okay? And you're not upset, right?" The kind of questions she never bothered with before. Her sudden concern told me she felt the shift too. I didn't answer directly. I simply told her I was handling things, and left it at that. Those 2 words were enough to keep her thinking. The tension in the air changed. They didn't know what I was planning, and I didn't give them clues. They had expected me to explode the moment I realized what happened, but when I didn't, it unsettled them. My silence was louder than any argument I could have made. I wasn't trying to scare them or hurt them. I just wanted them to understand that I wasn't the easy, forgiving person they thought I was. I wasn't going to let them walk over me again. Quiet revenge wasn't about getting even. It was about taking back control, little pieces at a time, until they realized I wasn't someone they could use anymore. When the moment finally came, it wasn't planned. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was simply the right time. My mom had invited a few relatives over for a small family dinner, and both she and Haley were there. I knew this was my chance. Not to embarrass them, but to speak the truth in a place where they couldn't twist it or pretend it didn't matter. I waited until everyone had settled, talking about normal things, before I stood up and faced them. My voice was steady, and my hands didn't shake the way they had weeks earlier. I had spent days preparing myself, and the calm I felt surprised even me. "I want to talk about something," I said, looking directly at my mom and then at Haley. The room quieted instantly. They both tensed, and I could see the nervousness in their eyes. The same nervousness that had been growing ever since I stopped reacting. I pulled out a small folder I had been keeping. I opened it slowly and placed the first photo on the table. It showed my dining table inside Haley's apartment. Then I placed a picture of my couch. Then my bed frame. Then the delivery receipts. No one spoke. "I'm not here to yell," I said softly. "I just want to say the truth clearly, since I never got the chance before." My mom swallowed hard but didn't say anything. Haley looked down at her hands. "I worked for every piece of that furniture," I continued. "Every extra shift. Every holiday shift. Every dollar I saved. That furniture wasn't just something I bought. It represented years of my life." I let the words settle. I wanted them to feel the weight of what I had carried alone. When I came home and found everything gone, it wasn't the things I missed. It was the trust. I looked directly at my mom. "You didn't ask me. You didn't warn me. You decided for me, and you expected me to accept it." My mom opened her mouth to defend herself, but I lifted a hand calmly. "Please let me finish." She closed it again. "It hurt because you acted like my hard work didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. Like Haley deserved more simply because she always has." Haley's eyes began to fill with tears. She whispered, "I didn't think. I didn't realize it meant that much." "It didn't have to mean anything to you," I replied gently. "But you didn't even try to see it from my side." I turned to my mom again. "And you, Mom, you always said families should take care of each other. But taking from one child to give to another isn't care. It's favoritism. And it breaks families more than anything else." She looked away, blinking fast. For the first time, she didn't have an excuse ready. My calm tone left her nothing to fight against. "I'm not here to punish anyone," I said as I gathered the papers. "I'm here to make sure you both understand this can't happen again, ever." The room stayed silent. But the truth had finally been spoken, and they felt it. Not because I shouted, but because I didn't have to. My calmness made the truth impossible to escape. Emma followed the legal steps Ryan helped her understand, and everything moved faster than she expected. The mediator looked over the documents she had collected and made it clear that the furniture legally belonged to her. Hearing this in front of a neutral party changed the whole atmosphere. Haley's confidence dropped immediately, and even Linda couldn't argue her way out anymore. They both had to accept that Emma had every right to take back her belongings. When the day came to retrieve her furniture, Emma kept herself calm. She arrived with the paperwork, and no one could stop her. Haley stood quietly in the corner, not yelling or making excuses like she used to. She looked embarrassed, almost unsure of what to do. The reality of her actions finally settled in. She had taken things that were not hers, assuming she deserved them. Now she had to face the consequences without anyone shielding her. Linda tried to speak softly, as if hoping to smooth things over, but Emma didn't fall into old patterns. She wasn't rude, but she didn't allow guilt or manipulation to cloud her decisions. She simply stated what needed to be done and moved forward. For the first time, she set boundaries clearly, and it was obvious that her mother didn't know how to respond. Linda had always relied on Emma's silence and patience, but that time was over. Once everything was settled, Emma returned to her place with her furniture and a lighter heart. Reclaiming her things felt less important than reclaiming her dignity. She realized she didn't need to shout or fight to get justice. She just needed confidence, proof, and the courage to protect what was hers. The emotional weight she had carried for weeks slowly lifted as she arranged her home again. It felt like she was rebuilding her space and her self-respect at the same time. Haley had to deal with the consequences afterward. Other family members who heard the truth questioned her actions, and she couldn't pretend to be the innocent sister anymore. She began behaving more carefully, avoiding the entitled tone she once used so freely. She didn't apologize openly, but her quietness said enough. She understood now that Emma wasn't someone she could take advantage of. Emma continued to keep her distance from the conflict, focusing instead on her peace. She didn't cut her family off, but she didn't let them get close enough to hurt her again. Setting boundaries became her new way of living. She learned that protecting her emotional space was more valuable than trying to please everyone. In the end, she felt stronger than the person who had walked into that empty apartment weeks earlier. The betrayal had hurt deeply, but it also pushed her to stand up for herself in ways she never had before. Emma moved forward with a quiet confidence, knowing she had faced the situation with clarity, patience, and strength. Emma sat alone in her apartment, the furniture finally back where it belonged. The space felt different now, not just because her things were returned, but because she had changed. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to breathe without feeling weighed down by guilt or confusion. Everything she went through had opened her eyes. She realized how easily people could take advantage of her silence, and how important it was to stand up for herself before things spiraled out of control. As she looked around, she wasn't thinking about the furniture itself. She was thinking about the journey that brought her here. The shock, the hurt, the frustration. It had all pushed her to grow in ways she didn't expect. She had always tried to keep peace, even when it cost her comfort. But now she understood that peace meant nothing if she was the only one sacrificing for it. Her boundaries were not a punishment to others. They were protection for herself. Emma reflected on her mom and sister, not with anger, but with clarity. They had acted as if her hard work was something they could claim whenever they wanted. They believed she would stay quiet forever, that her kindness meant weakness. But the moment she started defending herself, everything shifted. She learned that people change their behavior quickly when they realize they can no longer control the situation. Sitting in the soft evening light, she whispered to herself, "They thought they could take from me without consequences. Instead, they awakened a strength I didn't know I had." It wasn't a dramatic statement, just a simple truth she finally felt deep inside. She didn't need to fight loudly or create chaos to prove her worth. Her quiet actions, the evidence, the mediation, the boundaries, spoke louder than any argument could. Emma felt a sense of calm she hadn't felt in months. She realized that true revenge wasn't about hurting anyone or making them suffer. It was about taking back what was hers and refusing to be treated unfairly again. It was about protecting her peace, her effort, and her self-respect. That kind of revenge didn't leave bitterness behind. It left strength. She knew there would always be challenges, and her relationship with her family might never return to what it once was. But she no longer feared that change. She finally understood that loving someone didn't mean letting them walk over her choices or her achievements. Love needed balance, respect, and honesty, things she was now willing to demand. With this new clarity, Emma felt ready to move forward. Not with a heavy heart, but with quiet confidence. She had reclaimed her belongings, but more importantly, she had reclaimed herself. The experience left her stronger, wiser, and more aware of her own worth. And as she settled into the peaceful silence of her home, she felt the emotional closure she had been seeking all along.